Alrighty, I think we are live. Welcome everybody to another episode of Building LaraShoppe. I am your programmer this evening. My name is Nick Basile, and tonight we're going to continue where we left off last week. Last week we started our shop's front end and kind of got our inventory displaying, worked through some TDD issues, and then started playing with Tailwind CSS. And so tonight we're going to continue with that front end. First, I want to fix up our nav and our product grid styling a little bit. We kind of got a very rough and ready version done last week, and so this week do a little bit more polish on it, make it look a little bit nicer, and then we'll be ready to move on to our product pages. So hopefully we'll do a little bit more TDD there as well as we get those ready, and then we'll be able to kind of continue rolling through the rest of the site. Alrighty, so we kind of have our to-dos here, which is basically everything I just talked about. So let's continue onwards. So as we can see here, we've got our store from last time, and we can kind of look over it. Yeah, so the nav needs a little bit of work up top, and the products need a little bit of work as well. They're not really aligning perfectly, and the images are probably a little on the large side. So we can kind of tweak them a little bit and make them look a little bit nicer. So let's start with our navigation. And to do that, we'll start by running npm run watch, and I have an alias for that. And that is so we can not be purging our CSS. So purge CSS runs every time we compile, and so if you try and play with Tailwind CSS when it is not in your when it's not in production, then it will you won't basically have access to anything. All right, so and here we are in our welcome.blade. And let me make that font larger for everybody so you all can see it. Let's see here. Editor. I think it's font. Awesome. Bump that up. Great. Nice. Okay. We'll go ahead and do this, so it's a little easier. Okay, so the first thing is I messed up when I was trying to use this align baseline. It's really items baseline. And if we take care of that, then we can see that these guys are going to bump down, yeah, just like that, bump down and be on that baseline as we were expecting. So let's go ahead and tweak those links a little bit, make them look a little bit nicer as well. So for this login, we'll do a margin right of like 2, no underline, text, let's just say gray, dark. And then on hover, text, gray, darkest, and we'll add that transition class that we added last time. And that should be pretty good. Let's take a look at how that came out. And we have browser sync set up, so it'll automatically refresh for us. That's probably a little too light, so we're going to tweak that, make it a little bit more in line with our navigation, or our logo, or our home link rather. Actually, it looks like we already styled the nav links. We just didn't carry them over. Okay, nice. So that's looking pretty good there, and we'll bump up the text as well. You know what? I'm just going to grab all this. We've done so many things already. I'm starting to forget what we've already worked on. And then we'll throw that guy in there. We don't need the margin right because we don't need it to bump off the side. And yeah, that looks pretty nice. Might add a little bit more margin there just so it's a little bit clearer and cleaner. Nice. That way on mobile, people can actually click it. And yeah, that looks pretty good to me on mobile. And then, yeah, it kind of flexes pretty nicely. We've got some nice hover animations as well. I like baseline personally for navigation items. Center is also an option, but I think that works a little bit better. And actually my computer is going 1,000 miles a minute here, so we might have to get rid of browser sync here in a minute. But okay, so let's kind of go and take a look at the products here. So we got some weird pictures. Again, we're kind of just pulling them dynamically from the Lorem pixel plugin. Yeah, these are a little nicer. But yeah, kind of what I was saying here. We've got this gap here between our cards where some of them, depending on the content, they're not really flexing all the way. And then we're also, the images are nice, but I think we can do a little bit of a better job. And so one site I think that I often look at that has really nice design and a really nice grid pattern is this Refactoring UI site. So this is Steve Shoger and Adam Wathan. So if you're in the Laravel community, you've probably heard of them. They do a lot of really cool stuff and design tips. So design tips, they've got some articles. They're working on a book right now. They do all sorts of screencasts. But I really like their tile pattern here, or their cards that they're using. And I think their image size is just about perfect for what we want. We're going to have, and they've also figured out this issue here with the alignment at the bottom. So we'll hopefully be able to look at what they've done and get an idea of what we can do. So if we inspect their site, and let me pull down my DevTools, awesome. So the way they're setting up their images is they're actually using a background image, and then they've got this really special utility here called Aspect 16 by 9. And all that's doing is adding a padding bottom equal to this like 56.25%. And I didn't know about this actually. And this appears to be a way to kind of maintain an aspect ratio within that div, which I think is pretty cool and something that might be worth trying for us. So that's definitely something else that we can try. Yeah, and they've also got they probably got a little bit better card composition in terms of their HTML. And how their information is being contained within the page. So let's go ahead and start kind of just refactoring ours to be a little bit similar to what theirs looks like. So we'll start with our, scrolling down here. And so what they've done is they've actually wrapped each of their A tags in a div. And so I think we can go ahead and do that as well. And take some of these classes and sort of expand that out here. And that really shouldn't change anything on us. Yeah, so nothing's really changed there. But then they go ahead and make these this A tag here, so they're going to make it a flex and then flex col, and then they're going to make sure that the flex grow is set to 1. So these are just, again, shorthand Tailwind utilities for all these as well. And I think that'll solve our immediate problem. Oh, no, we got to do a little bit more work. As well. I thought that was going to take care of it for us. Nope, I guess not. Cool. Well, we can keep working along here. And so inside of our div, we've got the rounded shadow and then the margin 6. We could probably get rid of this and bring this up a level to the A tag and hopefully get rid of all this stuff here. So clean that up a little bit. I don't know exactly if this is going to work or not, but yeah, awesome. We'll keep. And we also want to add definitely add some hover effects to these because I think that would be really nice. Okay, so let's go ahead and create that utility that we saw they had made, that aspect 16 by 9. So we'll just grab that guy, and then if we head over to our app.sas, we can add a utility for ourselves. So 16 by 9, that should be lowercase. And we'll just have the padding. We're using SAS, so we don't have to worry about semicolon. Nice. So we've got, oh, I've lost. Let me close out of some of these because we don't need them just for the moment. We're working on them a little bit last time, and we'll continue to use them. Another option would be if you wanted to extend Tailwind, you could add a module. Yeah, or a plugin rather. And so you could do that. That way you can make it reusable between your projects. There probably might even be one, like some sort of image utilities. That would be really nice. But I have not seen that yet. So anyway, we'll add a class here. And aspect 16 by 19. And so the only frustrating thing, and I think I kind of touched on this last time with Tailwind, is that it doesn't have great utilities. I mean, it has some utilities for dealing with background images, but for the most part, you're kind of stuck doing inline styling, which, you know, does it look ugly? Is it not the best thing ever? Sure, but it gets the job done, and I think for like a little MVP like this, we're not going to be having too much heartburn worrying about that. So we go ahead and add our background, add a URL, and we'll just grab this guy. And I like doing everything inline with my backgrounds. Some folks just like to use all the different classes. So, for example, oh, good night in Switzerland. I used to live there, so that's great for you to tag along here. Really appreciate it. But thanks for stopping by, Philippe. All right, so like I said, there's different classes. So, for example, I think there's a no repeat, and there's like a background cover class. But I'll just do this all inline here just to keep it a little easier. So center, and then, oh, if I could spell, and then I believe it's cover like that. Awesome. And then let's just comment this guy out just to see how we're working. Yeah, so that's coming. So those are like a little bit tighter now, a little bit smaller. Our images are kind of zoomed in a little bit better. So I think overall that was a nice refactor. And unfortunately we lost our rounding, but we'll just go back in and add that to our div there. So just that rounded T, which stands for top, and hopefully that'll get taken care of for us. Nice, yeah, now we got our border radius back. Okay, so the last thing we're trying to fix here is our flexing, and really what we're looking for is to have the C product kind of at the bottom, but then the rest of the content I think can be at the top, and we'll see how that works. So let's take another peek at what they're up to here. And you know, some folks don't like looking at other folks' code and seeing what they did, or they think it's stealing. And I'm always reminded of that Steve Jobs quote, who I guess he misattributed it to Picasso, but that quote, like, good artists copy, great artists steal. And I think that's a really great insight here. We're not really stealing their code verbatim per se. What we're doing is we've recognized that they had a really useful pattern in their application, and then we're bringing that over to our application and using it in a different way to present similar information. And so it's not we're not copying their website. We're saying, oh, you guys did a really good job in this design pattern. We'd like to reuse that to present different information for our own purposes. And I think that's what Jobs was getting at there, is you could copy somebody's site, and yes, that's stealing, and there's no creativity involved with that. But if you look at 10 different websites and say, oh, that's a good idea, I like this part, and maybe we can work this in, that's not copying, that's stealing. And that's where the innovation can happen. You can stand on the shoulders of giants and really iterate. So that's how I'm rationalizing this behavior. But that's typically what I like to think about. All right, so their A tag is a flex element as well, so that might be what I was missing. So that's flex. Oh, I think their outer div is no. Okay, so what do they have here? Yeah, so that's a flex call as well. So we need to tweak that. So let's go ahead and do that, and I think that'll hopefully. Come on. Yeah, nice. So now we've got everything aligned down at the bottom here. And just kind of playing with flex and flex grow and all those properties, you can kind of come up with a similar solution. So now, I think our last little piece here is making sure that these guys are flexing correctly. So again, we'll say flex call, and then we can just say MarginTop set to auto. And that's a good trick when you're using flex if you're not familiar with it already. If you have an element and you want to like kind of shift it within a flex space, you can use auto margins and it will flex over. So for example, we want this guy to go all the way to the bottom. So if we have margin top set to auto, it'll automatically put itself towards the bottom. Let's see if that works. Okay, missing something there. Probably has to do with the padding or something like that. So let's go ahead and take a peek at what's going on. So flex call. So maybe we just add that, and then you know what we'll do? Yeah, PB X, so that's the x-axis, and then PB bottom 6. Alrighty. Oh, I see what's going on here. So let's see. So that's all. Let's set that back to 6. If I can do this right. Oh, we might need to do a flex grow. There we go. I think that took care of it for us. Okay, nice. So I forgot to add the flex screw to it. And I forget exactly what that maps to. So it's the problem with using a good utility framework like Tailwind is now I'm starting to forget the underlying values for things, which, you know, pros and cons. So flex, grow, shrink. So that flex 1 just says flex to 1. Pretty self-explanatory. And if you're familiar with flex, you should be familiar with all these properties. Going through all those, it's a different product. Her project. All right, awesome. So now we can see that our C product link is at the bottom, and it looks much cleaner and much nicer relative to all the other pieces of content. And if we kind of play with the responsiveness a bit, we can see that everything is still working and everything is nice and long. And when it's in this kind of single column layout, it flexes to itself, not necessarily its siblings. So it looks like everything is working pretty nicely for us here. So I guess our last sort of refactor is to go ahead and add some transitions here. And what we're going to probably make use of is this group utility, or state variant rather. Yeah, group hover. So when you have something like a card and you want elements within the card to change when you're hovering the parent object or element, you're going to need to use this group class to kind of say this is the parent, and then inside of it you can add group hover, and they'll say whenever the parent is being hovered, then apply these styles down below. So in this case we're hovering the parent, which is the div, so we're going to make the text inside white, which is just kind of a really great utility paradigm to be using. So I don't know if we'll do anything like that, but we might do some other things. So let's see. So what do I want to do exactly? Probably on hover, I'll change the shadow. Make that a little bigger, just so it looks like it's popping off the page. Transition. I think there's a translate, so let's just kind of see how that turned out. Yeah, so it looks like it's popping out a little bit more, but that's not necessarily what we want there, because we're not really creating the illusion of movement. We're just, I mean, we kind of are, but what we need to do is either add like a scale to it or a translate. And let's see if there are any, I don't know if they have a translate. Doesn't look like it. So we can either add our own or something like that. Let's see here. That actually is a good example to go through. So for example, let's say we wanted to add a custom utility and then have it be responsive to hover, which is kind of what we're doing here. So we don't have to then go out and write all the classes that we're going to need for it. We can actually wrap it in this variance sort of helper and say hover or focus or whatever other state variant we want. And then the output is going to be for those variants that we defined, which is really super useful when we're kind of wanting to add all those additional variants. So in this case, we'll go ahead and kind of do that just for the sake of example. So we'll say the class will be translate 2 pixels, and we'll say translate y 2 pixels. That'll be that axis, and then we'll say transform translate. I think I'm doing this right. And then at variant, so we've got the class in there. And we'll say on hover, we'd like for this to have a hover variant, right? That looked right. And variants, hover, also we're using tests, so we don't have to worry about those guys. And so where are we here? So on our A tag, we can say on hover, so translate 2 pix for pixels. All right, let's see what we've done here. I'm not sure if we wanted that to be negative or positive, but doesn't look like we're really seeing a lot of movement. I wonder why that is. Okay, so let's take a peek. Maybe I wrote some CSS incorrectly. Always possible. So a nice thing, I don't know if you know this, in Chrome DevTools, you can hit the hover and just apply the state variant and see what's getting applied. So we've got our translate to pixels there. It doesn't look like we're applying it though, or getting any styles. That could just be a browser caching thing. At least I was hoping it would be. I'm not seeing any errors coming through. Nope, that looks good. Oh, translate Y. That's what's going on. Nice. Alrighty, so yeah, so now we've got our movement like we'd expect. So, but we'd probably expect that to move upwards, so we'll use a -2 pixels. I don't really know how to represent that here, but we can kind of just roll with it. Our custom utilities are so small right now, we can afford to kind of say, okay, nice. So now we've kind of created that illusion of movement as well as the shadow, and our hovers are a lot nicer, at least in my opinion. Awesome. So I think that'll just about wrap up our product pages. So now it's time for us to start working, or sorry, our product index. So now it's about time for us to start working on our product pages. Oh, one quick note before I move on entirely. On the last episode, I think Ronnie had a comment about how we can make the, if we wanted this background image to be a full screen image, we could use the height screen utility as well. I don't know if I don't remember if I had talked about this last time. The reason I didn't want to make it full screen is because I wanted to make sure that there was an affordance at the bottom here for users to know that they should continue to scroll the page. Because sometimes with those full screen images, you kind of have to add an affordance that's like a little icon that bounces up and down that says scroll, or literally a scroll icon, or something to tell the user to like learn more or read more. Whereas if you make the hero image a little bit smaller than the full screen, you can kind of leave some text down here, and then the user typically says, oh, I should probably scroll that a little bit more because that looks like it got cut off. So it's just a way to kind of tip the user off that, okay, this is the best online store for Laravel Swag, but I also need to scroll the page a little bit more and see what else is out there. So that was the reasoning behind that. But yeah, if you wanted to do it, Ronnie actually had a really great, I didn't try it, but it looked all good to me, way for making it a full page hero image. So if you're interested in that approach, he's got the answers. Nice. So okay, so what's going to happen if we click on these? We're probably going to get a 404. Right, this nicely new designed Nova, or actually no, these are Laravel 5.7 404 pages. So we'll go back home because we don't necessarily need to go into it just yet. And we kind of X out of those guys. Nice. So what are we going to do here? We're going to have to go back to put on our TDD hats again and think about what we want to be doing. So in our tests, yeah, we can add this to our product feature tests. I think that's a fine place to do it. So we'll go ahead and grab this test guy comment. Some people write snippets for this. I know Jeffrey Way is a big fan of that. I have never gotten in the habit, but I think it would save me some time. I just used a built-in PHP Storm one there, so that pubf tab will give you a public function, and you can kind of tab through the process. So that's always really nice. So yeah, so you can kind of play with it as you want. So our test is going to be to fetch a single product. And we can kind of copy a little bit of what we have here. So we're going to go ahead and create a product. And we're actually going to set that guy equal to that because we're going to need to use the slug. So in our response, we're going to assert that we get the product. And I forget what our URL structure for that was going to be. So we go back to here, we're saying product slash whatever the slug is. So I think that's a good way to go. So we'll say products. And then we can use the product slug key. And what are we going to do here? We're probably going to assert that the view is the product view, which we'll really cleverly call product. And then, let's see. We have the product, so we can assert that the view has that. And that should more or less cover what we're looking for. And we don't really need to assert the count. I think we'll be okay there. So if we go ahead and run this test now, and I'll need to open up another example here. Cool. So with PHP unit, you can just run the test suite or you can filter. I've got PU alias to PHP unit, which is always funny, and then PUF for the filter. So I'll just go ahead and run that. And yeah, it failed because the response is not a view, which is what we'd expect. So let's go ahead and start building this thing. So I guess we can start by just kind of looking at this guy again. What we really should be doing here is having a layouts file and then a partial for our navigation, and then this could be its own blade file. So let's go ahead and set that up. So we can use the default layouts function or method or blade file here, or we can kind of roll our own. Because we were using the welcome, I'll just go ahead and roll our own. So we'll just call this main.blade PHP. And sure, we'll add it to Git. And really simply kind of grab all of this, throw it in here, and we've got our body at yield content. And I am always hesitant to add the navigation directly into a layout file, just because different layouts might need different navigation schemes depending on the context. So we can go ahead and add a yield for the nav as well. And that way, if we do want to include it in a blade file, we'll just directly sort of set that up within the lower level file itself. And then we can kind of manage any sort of different expectations from there. That's just me being, I've been burned in the past by this. That's just me probably being a little extra cautious, but I think it'll work for us. And then let's go ahead and add a directory for partials. And we'll create a nav partial. And this is just basic Laravel and Blade stuff. So hopefully this is not too much of a review for anybody. If it is new for you, welcome to the world of Laravel. I think this is pretty exciting stuff. So we'll copy the nav stuff that we have in there. Nice. So that looks pretty good so far. If route has login, I don't know why we need that anymore. I think that was some old boilerplate for the navigation to flip it on and off when we hadn't run the PHP artisan make auth. But because we ran that, we're okay. So we don't even need to worry about that anymore. And we can just focus on our navigation. So nice, we have our partial. And now we can go ahead and, I haven't done this in a second. This extends, that's what I want, great. So add extends layouts.main. We've got our content section. So we'll end the section. And kind of indent this a little bit more. Should have done this a while ago, would have been easier to read. And then at section nav. Again, this is probably a little overkill. Just something that I'm gonna go ahead and do, but again, I'm probably over pre-optimizing for this issue or any issue. And we'll just include the partial like that. So if we go back to our local host, yeah, we shouldn't see any issues. But if we commented this out for whatever reason, we wouldn't have a navigation anymore. You know, it doesn't look half bad. We kind of get away with it. So maybe we'll tweak our design a little bit in the future. Hey, Louise, welcome. Alrighty, so let's add that back in, and now we can continue rolling with our product. Can you describe a case where you benefited from this nav optimization? Sure, Mikey, that's no problem. So, for example, if we are going to end up using this main navigation, so I've run into it with auth pages where I've reused the layout file for my auth pages. So instead of using like app or something like that, I've tweaked it. And authentication pages typically have like a slightly different navigation structure, just because they're you don't necessarily need as much information. So for example, it's a good example here. So here's a site I built recently. So this is JobPath, and it is a website that will help you land your first job for recent graduates. And so for example, here we have a navigation. We've got like a how it works. We've got courses, blog, login. And so if you come down to a course, for example, the navigation is going to stay the same, which makes sense. But if you run into the login page, we don't really have the same navigation. So these, but they do share the same layout file, because I want to import the same CSS files. I want to have the same JavaScript files. So a lot of the content is similar within the layout, but the navigation is different. So having it set up in this way, I don't have to necessarily worry that the layout file has a navigation in it, because I'm taking care of that within the Blade view itself. So that's just an example of where I've done this before. I hope that answers your question, Mikey. Alrighty, so where were we? Nice. Okay, so we're back over here. So now that we've taken care of this, yeah, totally, it saves a lot of if statements, or I've done it in the past where I've had different navigation partials and I've included them in the layout in different routes. And so I've dealt with that, and it works, and you can go a long way with that. I just find this to be a little bit cleaner, a little bit more explicit. It doesn't seem intuitive at first, but it's just one of those things that I've done so many times now that it feels right to me at this point. And obviously, if it doesn't make sense for your project, you have a different way of doing it, or you like doing it a different way, do it that way. This is just how I do things. Alrighty, so we've got the welcome. We'll go ahead and rename this to product. So copy that and rename it. We'll add that to Git, no problem. And cool. So now we can say hello world. And we'll maintain our navigation. And we can't see it yet because our web is not, we don't have a route for it. So if we ran our test, we'll still get the same failure because we're missing the route. So let's see here. So the product controller index, we'll go ahead and say products, and then product. I think that's right. I haven't done that in a second. I think it's more like that. And then we'll do add show. Nice. If it doesn't work, we can always catch it in the test, which is why we do those. So main, exit out of these guys. We'll keep that up. And then, ooh, what's it? Oh, that's a Nova. For some reason that got opened. Product controller. Show. Oh, it's inventory. That's interesting. That makes sense. Oh, no, that doesn't make sense. It's because we had renamed this controller, and for some reason we did not catch the inventory in the regex. So I think I'll take care of that for us. Nice. So we've got our product. So we'll just return a view called product, and we'll compact the product. And now we should start seeing some errors, or some different errors at least. Response is not a view. Alrighty, so let's see why that would be failing. So product/product, product controller at show, product controller at show, we're returning a view. That is slightly frustrating. So let's try DDing the response and see what we get. That looks like a view to me. Maybe it was just cached or something. Fetching, let's see here. View is product. And this is why people get frustrated with testing. I totally understand that. So that should be the same. Returning the view. And we'll just compact the product, which we've passed through. And we have a product view. So we should be good to go. Let's just try it for a sanity check here. We can try clicking it. All right, so I've messed something up in the web, probably. So product slash probably this guy here. Okay. Oh, do I? This could be our issue. So if we go to our product class, and then do we have a trait on here? No, we don't. Okay, so here's the issue. I did not define the route key. Does your route use products instead of product? Oh, that's another good point that I might be missing. So that says products, and then if we go home, let's take a look here. Sorry, this is running so slow here. But I think one of our issues is definitely that our route key is not defined because we are using the slug. So in product, let me grab that guy. We can just overwrite that. So get route key, and we'll just return slug. Nice. Alrighty. I don't know what happened to localhost here. No CSS. All right. So that's got products in it. So I think that's not going to be our issue. I'm hoping. Oh, that didn't do it either. Let me try doing it outside of localhost there, and nope, still getting that 404. So maybe route key name. So let's see what's going on here. So route get product control. I don't think that has any middleware on it. Nope, that shouldn't. All right, let's try DDing in here and seeing what's going on. You know, sometimes it's the little things, the easy things that you think are going to be no problem, all of a sudden start blowing up on you. So let me just try compiled. Oh. That's nice. That seems new. Composer dump. Sometimes this helps, because I'm not seeing an obvious reason. All right. We're not even getting the DD on this. Am I hitting the right product controller show? That's right. And no, it shouldn't have to be 2. Ah, okay, that was the issue. I had the $sign in there, and I didn't need it. Cool. So now everything should be working correctly. Sorry, it has been a long day for me, so I am a little bit less sharp than I might normally be. Alrighty, and we should see our nav and hello world. Awesome. So now if we can return to our test suite, it's nice. It's nice that we had the tests. I opened VS Code on accident, so that's going to take 2 years to open. Okay, so now if we run our test, we can see that, okay, so these were not equal, which makes sense because we don't have the recently created flag. That's kind of annoying. That's a really nice flag, actually. I didn't realize that was available, but let's see here. So we go to Laravel.com, check out the documentation. Testing, doing HTTP tests, one of our assertions, Vue has. Alrighty. So we're giving it the key, and we're giving it the value. So let's just see if we can say that the title is what we're expecting, because that should work anyway. I wonder if we could do it like this. You never know. No, yeah, that didn't work. Maybe this. Ah, that'll fail because of that, but we can fix that, no problem. Yeah, so that's not gonna work for us. So it's a bummer that it's not happening fast enough. I wonder if we could do toArray. Like that. Let's see if that'll work. Nope. So if we did has all, I'd imagine it would work. Type array, string given. Oh, that also makes sense. Also makes sense. So let's grab this guy. That null matches sock. That's weird. I wonder why it's only giving us one value there. Let me try DDing the product, which looked like it was the elephant model. Yeah. So I wonder why it's only coming up with sock there. Oh, probably because like this needs to be an array itself. It's a little bit doesn't feel that clean, but we'll see if that gets us to green, and then we'll go from there. No, it didn't. Huh, that's annoying. That is annoying. Alrighty. Sometimes just going through the assertions and making sure that everything makes sense. See if we're picking the right one. Oh, assert C text. That was probably what we need. Probably makes more sense. And then we could do product title. And then we should be getting green. No. Ooh. So maybe we'll just do assert C. Gosh, it is. We're getting nothing out of this one, which is a shame because you'd really. I'd hope to see that the product was getting passed through correctly. Assert JSON. That doesn't make sense. If anyone has a assertion that I'm missing, feel free to throw it in the chat there. I guess we couldn't assert that it's successful. Maybe it's telling us that we don't have this set up the way maybe it is failing on purpose. So what was it saying here? Oh, well, of course it would not contain the title because we do not display the title on the page yet. So actually our test is, we're really TDDing here because our test is way too far ahead of our view. So let's just really quickly get that to green and see how we do here. Nice. Okay, now we are cooking with gas. So yeah, so just like that, we can write a test. And I say just like that, that took us a little bit of time to spin our wheels to get figured out. But yeah, you could write a test like that and have be pretty confident that everything is working. And again, I'm not going to test like every possible iteration of or implementation of what's going on that page, but I do want to know at like a very sort of high level, is the view coming in correctly, and is the data that I'm expecting to be on that page actually on that page? And we'll get into a little bit more. We're going to probably end up doing some Vue.js stuff. We can get into testing those Vue components and really getting it at a much more sort of granular unit level. When I'm writing applications and using a lot of Laravel and Vue, I tend to use feature tests for the data on the Laravel side, making sure everything is coming to the page. Yeah, TDD is the definitely the way to go there, Wilbur. So. And yeah, so you could see like how I kind of stumbled through that process, but at the end of it, now we're pretty confident that we're in good hands. Whereas before, I could have just built that page and continued to run, and we could be miles down the road and having issues and not having a good way to debug it. But what I was saying with the Vue stuff is, well, when I do the Laravel stuff, I'll do a feature test, make sure that the data is on the page and that the context is correct. And then on the Vue stuff, I'm a little bit more focused on how that component is actually operating given the data that it should be receiving from Vue. Testing with Dusk or Vue test utils. Good question. I will probably try to use Vue test utils. I've really enjoyed that test suite. I think Dusk is really nice as well. But for those like JavaScript unit tests, it's Vue test utils all the way. For bigger integration tests where I'm running through many pages and interactions, testing with Dusk is kind of how the approach I would take. So for example, if we have like our shopping cart component and that's a Vue component and I wanted to make sure we're adding items correctly, I'd probably have a unit test for that. But if I wanted to see if our application can take a user from like the landing page to a product all the way through the check-in process, I would probably use Vue Dusk for that. So that's when I would use both of those. So hopefully for this, we might use both. I don't know. It depends on how far we take this project together, but could end up happening. Well, you never know. Alrighty, so now that's enough rambling. We've got our product set up. So let's start displaying the information. Oh, I killed the processor. Okay, nice. So now we've got our whatchamacallit? Title. Nice. You can tell it's been a long day. Okay, so really, I'm not trying to reinvent the wheel that much. I might copy a lot of this that we've already done. So let's see here. And that's using the background hero, height hero, and that's all fine. So let's grab that and kind of start from there. So we'll have to make our own background inline. Style is equals the background URL. And I've done this several different ways. I've had like a section that would do like head CSS. That way works. I've done inline styles. So just kind of all over the board here. But I tend to like the inline style just because I like using the utility classes and I can kind of see where everything's at. So let me just double check what that column was called. And that was called the preview image URL. Nice. Product preview image URL. Awesome. And we'll do our usual no repeat. Center, and then cover. And then if I always mix that up. And if I'm not mistaken, I think we were adding a linear gradient on top of that. Yeah, just because it darkens it so we can see the text on top of it. So we'll go ahead and grab that guy as well. Nice. And I'm sure somebody somewhere is yelling about separation of concerns. And I say, yes, that is something to consider when it's applicable. And when it's always applicable, I guess, but when it matters to you. You can follow best practices until you know when to not follow them anymore. Alrighty. Ooh, that is a nice photo. All right, so just like that, we've kind of got ourselves a nice product header. And what else? What other information did we have here? I think we have a description. I'm just going jumping into our database here. I think that's a fine way to do it. So we've got our status. If it's sold out, we're definitely going to want to display some sort of a warning so the user knows that. We've got our description. We've got a preview image. We don't really have tags or anything like that just yet, which is fine. We can add them later when we start working on our like filtering system. That's definitely something we're going to want to work on. But for right now, we just kind of have the description. We'll probably have some sort of like add to cart button. We'll probably want to put a cart in the nav, so that's going to be like a nice little Vuex problem for us to solve, which will be pretty fun. And then I was actually thinking about brainstorming how we're going to implement the cart, and there is a fair amount of complexity that we're kind of is behind the scenes in carts, and that I really should have thought about a little bit harder before jumping into this project. But that's okay. We'll make it happen, because I think we've got a good crew here. We'll see it through. Alrighty, so let me deviate from that design a little bit more. So add a div. Let me just go ahead. We'll add that to flex. We'll say justify between. If no one has seen the syntax before, if you type out a element and then put dots and then class names, when you hit tab, it'll sort of expand everything for you. So that's just a nice little helper if you kind of know what some of your classes are going to end up looking like. So on this side, we'll have like that h2 that I was looking for. And we'll tweak it a little bit. We won't say text center, but we might keep everything else. And why, that sounds fine. So about, probably something about this product or something like that. Yeah, we don't need that. And then our paragraph, and we'll just say, what is this, product? Description. Let's see how that looks. Nice. And so we'll need to tweak this a little bit. So at mobile, that'll be full, but at, say, larger screens, we'll make it 1/2. I'm just kind of whizzing through this, not really thinking too much about it. And we'll just do the same thing over here. Gosh. Nice. And over here, we might say, we might have like a button added to cart. I don't know. We'll probably make that a Vue component. So it integrates with the navigation a little better. I mean, yeah, so we can do the cart Vuex. Cool, that's kind of what we're looking for. In a nutshell here, so about this product, I don't know, I haven't looked at too many e-commerce sites, so let's go to Amazon. E-commerce sites lately, I guess. What's the deal today? We can get a leaf blower here. Ooh, they've got a much better setup here. So maybe this makes more sense for us. Where we have the picture on the side. I mean, they've got a whole carousel here. I don't know if we're ready to implement a feature like that, but maybe we can steal some of their layout and just make it a little bit more. They've got the vendor here. They've got reviews. Obviously, we can add features like that. Amazon Choice, deal of the day. Wow, that's pretty impressive. And then they've got little feature. They don't even have a description. They've actually just got features of the product. Wow, I mean, we could do a whole recommendation engine for this. We can do a whole bunch. They are light years ahead of us, though. So, and they've got a much better information architecture, but that's okay. We can get there. Okay, so if we were going to kind of rip off Amazon, what we would do is kind of get rid of this hero section. We might keep probably don't need to keep the height anymore, but let's go ahead and start doing that. So how might we'd probably keep this actually. Have the button like there. I don't think we added any button classes yet. Let's actually add an MV2 to here. Actually, no, MY will take care of that. We'll just make that empty. Buttons are probably one of the first things I will extract to their own utilities file. But for right now, we haven't really done any buttons, so I don't need to worry about it just yet. But maybe after this first button, we'll make a primary button class. Cool. So then over here, we can just add the image. And we'll try making this a image to start and see how we do. I know images are better for accessibility and all sorts of other reasons. I always have the hardest time aligning and styling them. And so I tend to lean towards background images, even though it's less user-friendly, but I think it looks nicer. That's one of those trade-offs that there's no great answer just yet. Oh wow, this already looks a lot nicer, at least in my opinion. What's everybody think? Any thumbs up out there? Thumbs down? Do we go back the other way? Nice, I like this a lot. So we can actually get rid of that padding on the top there for this guy. That's just a holdover from what it was before. Nice. Add to cart. Let's tweak that button. Let's make the button look a little nicer. Oh, caps locks. And we are running out of time here, so this might be the last thing we do for today. And then next week, we can probably start working on it, which would, the whole cart system, which would be really cool. So class, what we're going to do is, let's see, padding Y, we'll make that like 6, padding X, we'll make 4. Probably make it rounded. Let's just say blue for now, text white. Let's see what that did for us. Yeah, Tailwind's great. Oh, we got some thumbs up. Awesome. And I have those backwards, which is a summary of my day. But for the most part, I think that button looks pretty nice. Nice. All right. Yeah, I think that'll work for us for right now. Maybe we'll add a little bit more margin below this guy here so we're not cramping its style. Yeah, nice. Nice. Yeah, totally. I think, Mikey, you're spot on there. that was a little bit too much information, so I think this is a good refactor for us. And we've got our add to cart. We'll add a hover for it. BG blue, and we'll just say dark. I don't know why I picked blue. I just kind of like it. I think the Tailwind blue is pretty nice. I don't think we've used it anywhere else. Nice. Yeah, look at that. That looks pretty cool. So we'll probably end up refactoring this guy to a Vue component because we'll want it to integrate with Vuex. So adding a cart to the screen here. So we'll probably want a icon for that. So maybe we'll do a Font Awesome integration next week as well. Just kind of thinking out loud. This page is a little sparse relative to Amazon. So that's definitely something, if you guys are kind of following along and working on this on your own, something to consider, what other features we're going to want. Maybe I'll do a poll on Twitter about that, just to see what everyone would like to see us work on. Let me add a little bit more here. We're going to make this text gray darker, just to de-emphasize the visual hierarchy a little bit. Nice. I like that photo too. Cool. Cool. And maybe we do like a rating system. We could do reviews. We've got the login and the authentication, so reviews would be a pretty natural next step. But at a very minimum viable product level, this is kind of all you need for a shopping cart. Is that not a link? Oh, that should be a link. Where's our nav? Oh, that is a faux pas and a half. All right. We'll just do that. No underline. On hover. Let me just tweak this guy here before we sign off, because I would hate for that not to work. After we already did our refactor. I think we have no underline. Yeah, I want a transition. Nice. I don't know. We probably don't even need the H1 in here, but I think that's good for your semantic purposes. Nice. Awesome. So that is working for us. Cool. And all those buttons look all right. We'll probably at some point need to, we got rid of the styling for the login and the register pages. We're not really too worried about that flow just yet. So when we get to that point, we'll probably worry about that a little bit more. But yeah, our front end is coming together. So now we've got a much nicer, I guess we did use some blue. We've got a much nicer product page. Our nav is looking a lot better and is a little bit more functional. If we hop into a given product, we can see the details about it and consider adding it to our cart. And now we're kind of set up for next week. Alrighty, folks. Well, thank you so much for tuning in and watching. If you enjoyed it, feel free to subscribe if you haven't already. I'm on Twitter at nickjbasile. If you want to follow me, I frequently tweet about these sort of development things, as well as when the next stream is going to happen. So if you don't want to subscribe on Twitter, on YouTube, feel free to subscribe there. And have a wonderful week, and we'll see you all next week. Good night.